How and why the federal capital of Nigeria was moved from Lagos to Abuja. Also, Abuja was created because of the move. A walk down memory lane to see how the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, came about is necessary. In 1960, Nigeria was granted political independence as a sovereign state under the 1960 Constitution from Britain. After independence, Nigeria, like many newly independent African states, inherited a capital which was then Lagos, a state central in respect of international trade, but distant from most constituent states in terms of administrative and cultural affairs. Over time, the coastal town of Lagos, then Nigeria's capital, grew rapidly, leading to questions around the suitability of Lagos serving as both the federal capital city of Nigeria and that of Lagos State. Some of the problems with Lagos State being the capital were identified as intolerable conditions of living and working, intractable traffic, chronic housing shortages, over-congestion, overstretched infrastructure, and severe environmental sanitation problems. Some include Lagos being the commercial nerve center of the country, the possibility of relocating the Aborigines of Lagos, the questions of scarcity of land for expansion and costs involved, potential security risks, skewed location, and challenges of possible submarine wreckage. These factors necessitated the setting up of a panel in August 1975 by the then military regime of late Murtala Muhammad. This committee was to advise if it was suitable for Lagos to retain its dual role of being both state and federal capital, or if the capital was to move from Lagos. If it was to be moved, the committee was charged with the responsibility to recommend suitable alternative locations, having regard to the need of easy access to and from every part of the country, among other factors. The panel, led by Justice Akinola Aguda, recommended that the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, should be moved out of Lagos. The country needed a site with good climate, plenty of land, and abundant water. Different teams visited possible locations in the existing 12 Nigerian states, taking note of their capitals. Afterward, Nigeria studied world capitals like Brasilia, Brazil, Islamabad, Pakistan, Paris, France, St. Petersburg, Russia, and Washington, D.C., United States. With Paris and Washington in mind, Abuja was chosen. Abuja was a site in the center of the country inhabited by several ethnic groups, like the Gbagi, Koro, Gade, and Gwandara, none of which belongs to the dominant nationalities, Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. In 1976, the then head of state, General Murtala Muhammad, announced that Abuja would be developed as the new capital. The choice of Abuja was made as it was seen as a more neutral land for Nigeria's many ethnic and religious groups and as a more central location in the country. Construction started in the 1980s, and Abuja became the new capital in December 1991. In his broadcast, General Muhammad said, "The area is not within the control of any of the major ethnic groups in the country. We believe that the new capital created on such virgin lands, as suggested, will be for all Nigerians a symbol of their oneness and unity. The federal territory will belong to all Nigerians." This decision, however, led to the displacement of the native people who were residents of the old Abuja, although committees were empowered to explore relocation. The government assumed the expenses involved, declaring and authorizing in Decree No. 6 of 1979 a rate of compensation for households as well as churches and mosques. About 50% of the people in Abuja were Muslim and 40% Christian. The cost of relocating places of worship along with families was agreed at the sum of 1 million naira for the Niger, Plateau, and Kwara states, in a deal signed on October 10, 1977. This displacement has caused a lingering controversy, while Abuja was seen as a no man's land. The ethnic group Gbagi, Gwari, who were the original settlers in Abuja before it was chosen as the FCT, think otherwise and have continued to fight for the land.
Nigeria began to build a new capital, here in the middle of the bush, miles from anywhere. So far, nearly £2 billion worth of contracts have been awarded to build the new city in this virgin land. A sparse, barely inhabited area in the geographical middle of the country, it had scarcely seen a bicycle, let alone a bulldozer, until the construction companies moved in. But progress has been tough, and it's hard to imagine, looking from the roof of this uncompleted Sheraton hotel to the skeleton of another five-star hotel in the distance, that in between there should already be signs of hundreds of offices and thousands of houses. President Shehu Shagari's idea of moving here by September last year seems a remote dream. But there's no questioning the government's resolve to shift the entire administrative machinery here, lock, stock and foreign embassies. For whatever the cost and the chaos, the rationale for moving is generally accepted. Lagos, the capital since 1914, is fast choking on petrol fumes. Despite the billions spent on flyovers and new roads, it cannot cope with the immense urban migration. Thousands of kilometers of roads were needed to join Abuja with the rest of the federation. Thousands of houses and flats are necessary for the civil servants from the 15 ministries which will all move their headquarters to Abuja. But Nigeria wanted more than a functional capital. It wanted a spectacular capital. This will be the presidential palace. Complete with underground bunker, it will cost anything up to £150 million by the time it's completed. Getting paid has become a real problem.
The contractor's going ahead, we are getting paid, but we're not getting paid as much as we should get paid. So obviously what happens is that you reschedule your program to take account of the amount of funds which have been made available at any one time.
The same applies to the small man. This man has been waiting 5 months for any money, and he makes 3 or 4 trips a month from Lagos to try and get his cash. The government is doing its best to rein in the costs without destroying the idea. For instance, this ambitious model for the National Assembly, designed by Japanese architects, was costed at nearly 500